10 spot, we have War of the Worlds. On Halloween Eve in 1938, people thought that aliens had come to Earth. This story is nuts. In 1938, way before movies and TV shows and radio programs became what they are today, 12 million people tuned into a radio program on CBS radio that declared that Martians have invaded New Jersey. It was a radio play called War of the Worlds by Orson Welles, who acted in it and wrote it. Very few people knew it was a play though, and it created mass hysteria. It is predicted that 1 in 12 people believed it to be real, approximately 1 million were terrified and ran out of their homes and panicked over an alien invasion. But honestly though, that must have been really scary to hear and not know what to do.
Starting off this countdown, we have Samhain, which I always pronounce as Samhain, but apparently it's Samhain. Don't know how, but okay. Anyways, this was the Celtic festival that was celebrated in Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man. It was said that at this time the connection between the other world and our world thins, so it makes it easier for spirits and the souls of the dead to come into our world. So they would celebrate the dead and make offerings and sacrifices for them. Another part of this tradition included having the Celtic priest wear dead animal heads and skins and go around making predictions about the future. Most of the stuff they did to celebrate this holiday was done so that the spirits wouldn't get mad at them. Moving on at number 9, we have the deal with the devil. Turns out that jack-o'-lanterns have a pretty dark origin story. They symbolize a deal with the devil gone wrong. So basically, one night a man named Stingy Jack ended up tricking and trapping the devil. He then said he would only let the devil go if he promised that he would never go to hell. I mean, crossing and trying to outsmart the devil is the last thing you should do. So the devil was like, "Sure my dude, no problem." But what Jack did not realize was that just because he's not going to hell doesn't mean that he's going to heaven. So in the end, when Jack died, he ended up in purgatory, just wandering around for eternity. In the end, he used a turnip and a piece of fiery coal from the devil to create a lantern. That's why it's called jack-o'-lantern. I think it should have been Stingy Jack-o'-lantern though, that would have been funny. Starting us off at number 10.
The disappearance of Cindy's song. Cindy was a university student who was doing what any university student would do on Halloween, and that was having fun at a party. She spent the night out with her friends laughing and hanging out. Then she got a friend to drive her home to make sure that she got back safe. Her friend saw her walking into her apartment building, but that was the last time that anyone would ever see of her. The case was a mystery for a while, but then there was a lead. A man by the name of Hugo Marcus Selinski was suspected in the of this poor girl. People say he worked with an accomplice to pull off this crime. Things really started to heat up when police investigated Selinski's home, and they made a horrific discovery. They found a series of dead bodies in the backyard. One of the craziest parts of the story was when the person was suspected in helping Selinski, Cindy, they actually showed up dead in Selinski's backyard. Then things got even crazier when Cindy's body was never found amongst the many things that were buried in Selinski's property. This opened everything up being a mystery once again.
Starting us off at number 10 is costume or reality. Halloween Day 1957. Betty Fabiano and her husband Peter were winding down and getting ready for bed when the doorbell rang. Despite it being past 11 p.m, they assumed that maybe it was a group of late night trick-or-treaters, and since they had some candy left, and so Peter went downstairs to answer the door and was greeted with a man wearing a mask. Betty heard some muffled voices downstairs, kind of like a man was impersonating a woman's voice, then a pop and then a thumb. She ran downstairs to discover Peter lying on the ground in a pool of blood with a gunshot wound on his chest. He died on the way to the hospital, and suspects were hunted down immediately. Now here is like the biggest plot twist of plot twist history. Now the couple had their fair share of trouble, and while separated at one point, Betty started seeing a woman called Joan. That's not the plot twist, by the way. They decided to take another jab at their marriage, and Peter's only condition was that Betty could never see or speak about Joan again, to which she agreed. Joan obviously then had a motive and was questioned, and things she was saying just weren't adding up. She claimed that she was home all night, but neighbors claimed she left on a drive for a very long time. An anonymous tip led the police to the murder weapon, and then the assailant, 40-year-old Goldine Pizer. She admitted to killing Peter under the spell of a woman she was in love with, and that woman was Joan.
Okay, a very dangerous game makes its way onto this list at number 10, the Closet Game. This game comes with a lot of warnings. It is said that if you play this game, a demon will possess your body and you will be pulled into eternal darkness. If this sounds like fun for you, I don't know how it would sound like fun, like a demon's gonna possess your body. Well, first you need to play the Closet Game at night and turn off the lights. Make sure you have a book of matches or else bad things are bound to happen. Go into your pitch black closet and close the door. Stay in the closet for about 2 minutes without speaking or moving. After the 2 minutes is up, hold a match in front of you and say, "Show me the light and leave me in the darkness." Now listen carefully, and if you hear a faint whisper, then you need to light the match immediately. And do not turn around, no matter how freaked out you are. If your match goes out, immediately light another one, because if you don't, you will feel something grab you from behind. If you manage to make it out alive, close the closet door and don't look back, because you will see 2 glowing eyes looking at you, which means the demon is watching you. Here are actually 2 brave souls attempting to play this game.
Show me the light or leave me in darkness. Oh, light the match, light the match, light the match. It doesn't immediately, it's not lighting, it's not lighting. There's something was in there. Something was literally right behind me. Did you hear anything?
I heard voices.
You heard voices? The coat hangers right behind me. I don't know how, but they.
Alright, I'm freaked out here. Let's move on to something else even more freakier. God damn. Charlie haunts us at number 9. And no, I'm not talking about Charlie bit my finger. You guys know that video?
Charlie, that really hurt.
That video is cute. We're talking about scary stuff on here. I'm talking about this horrible paranormal game.
Charlie, will you hurt me? I don't know if I should keep playing. I don't think I should keep playing.
I'm sure all of you have read about this terrifying game, and I know that some of you have even tried it, but I'm begging you to never ever play this game again, especially on Halloween night. Do it the night after. Unless summoning a demon is your idea of a good time, the origin of this paranormal game is unclear, but there are some theories about who Charlie is. But one thing that is for sure is that Charlie is a demonic spirit. There have been a ton of scary, creepy experiences from people who have tried to summon Charlie. If you attempt to contact Charlie, then you could probably expect to hear some blood-curdling screams, creepy whispers, broken mirrors, and shaking objects. If you do play this game, you can't say that I didn't warn you.
At number 10, we have Costume Switch Up. This story comes from Let's Read _YouTube on Reddit, and this user says this experience happened to him years ago when a couple of buddies and him went to a neighborhood party. It was a great party, a bunch of people, all in costume, and his friend Danny had what he said was a pretty convincing Michael Myers costume. The whole group was having a great time at the party, but it was enough of a banger that after a couple of hours, the police showed up to slowly shut the party down. The group of guys decided they wanted to keep the party going and went to the nearest licensed establishment for some booze. When they were there, the narrator of this story sees that Danny's fake knife in his Michael Myers costume doesn't look so fake anymore, and so he grabs it from his hand thinking his friend decided to get a little too in character and decided to borrow a knife from the house party. But then his phone rings, and the person on the phone is Danny. He hears Danny's voice on the other end of the line asking where the group went, and he realizes that this Michael Myers isn't his Michael Myers. Luckily, the group chases the creepy stranger away, but please, all of you better be double checking to make sure that your friends are your friends, especially when they're wearing masks. If they're not wearing masks, you should be able to tell. And now I just gave you the short version of this story, but if you want to check out the full version of this story or any of the others, be sure to check out our sources in the description below.
In our number 9 spot, we have a fascist celebration. On Halloween in 1922, Mussolini, the Italian politician of the time, threw a party to celebrate the growing power of the fascist party. This happened in Rome with thousands of men who dressed in black shirts, which was a part of the party's uniform. The pictures are insane to see. I've said to myself that if I ever find myself in a place surrounded by hundreds or thousands of people all gathered for the same purpose or person, then I will ask myself, do I think like everyone else here? Have my thoughts been manipulated in some way to appeal to a core basic human need that we all need, which is to be accepted and to belong? I'm sure the answer to the last question will be yes, let's be real. Apparently it was this day that
Mussolini violently took control of the government, which led him to becoming prime minister and then the dictator. This event became known as the March on Rome. So yeah, this is definitely some pretty crazy history for the Italians and certainly a terrifying event. In our number 8 spot, we have a terrifying prediction. Apparently, American serial David Berkowitz predicted a killing while inside the correctional facility that he was in, and no one of course paid attention to it and thought he was making up a story. Typical, but also he was a prisoner, which I'm sure most assumed to be clinically insane, so it makes sense why they wouldn't have listened. They didn't realize until Halloween morning in 1981 when 2 people named Elizabeth Platzman and Ronald Sisman, who were found dead in their Manhattan home, brutally killed. Apparently Berkowitz described their apartment perfectly and said that a cult had carried out these killings. No one was ever able to find out who killed these people, so many believe Berkowitz's prediction to be true and believe that probably this cult was very powerful and that's why no one was ever found to be connected to the killings. I'm sure that happens way more than we think.
Coming in at number 8, we have the evil spirits. So here is another theory as to how jack-o'-lanterns and pumpkins became associated with Halloween. First off, turnips were used back then before pumpkins. They would hollow out the turnip and carve them into scary faces. This was done in order to scare off any spirits. Then they would light them with a candle or a piece of smoldering coal. The lanterns were then placed in the windows or doorways of their home, hoping that the face they carved was scary enough to scare off the evil spirits and welcome their ancestors inside. In our 7th spot, we have the bats. There are a couple of animals and things that are specifically associated with Halloween, like black bats. How did this happen? Well, there was a creepy myth that many believed from back in the day. The myth was that if a bat was spotted flying around a person's house 3 times, then it meant someone in that house would pass away soon. It was also believed to be bad luck if a bat flew into the person's house. It also meant that someone in the house was going to die. If the bat landed on one person in particular, it meant that that was the person who was dead. In the 1800s, bats were caught drinking the blood of cattle in Central and South America, so people immediately then labeled them as vampires. Then in 1897, Bram Stoker's Dracula depicted vampires shapeshifting into bats, so people were like, yeah, bats and vampires should be feared and they'll come and get you on Halloween. Coming in at number 9, we have the murder of Taylor Van Dyst. But before I go any further, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out, so please do so. On Halloween night back in 2011, Taylor Van Dyst left a party in Armstrong, Canada, but she never returned home. That was the last time anyone had seen her. What's freaky is that on her way home, she sent a text to her friends saying that she was being creeped on. She was later found dead by the side of railroad tracks. After running tests on the body, DNA of a man named Matthew Forrester was found under her fingernails. He later admitted that he had choked her and hit her on the head 6 times. One of the blows fractured her skull. She passed away a few hours later.
Now coming in at number 9 is Don't Touch My Candy, Halloween Day 2011. A 55-year-old man residing in Chicago realized at 2:30 p.m. that his bag of candy was missing. Call the police. Now I don't know if that's referring to his bag of candy that he got during trick-or-treating or the bag he was using to give candy to kids. I mean, you could be 50 and trick-or-treating. I'm not gonna judge you. Who am I to judge you? Either way, suddenly outraged by this realization, the man blamed his neighbor Maria Adams for stealing it even though she really didn't. The man grabbed a bunch of steak knives from his kitchen and headed to her house where he ended up stabbing her countless times. Maria desperately tried to defend herself by throwing plates at him, but it was just no use. She was in critical condition by the time she got to the hospital and ended up dying the next morning. The man was charged with first-degree murder and aggravated domestic battery. Can we just take a second please to just realize how ridiculous this is? Like, I simply just do not get it. He killed a woman over a bag of candy. Like, unless that bag had the secret of a life in it or the elixir of immortality, it's just not that deep. Get a new bag. Now filling on number 7 slot is The Note, Halloween Day 2012. Now Julie Keith was on her way to Kmart to buy some quick last minute cheap Halloween decorations in her hometown of Damascus, Oregon. That was a lot to say in one breath. Either way, inside the graveyard kit that she purchased, she found a handwritten handwritten letter from an inmate at the Chinese labor camp that had made the kit. The letter pleads for the reader to send it to the World Human Rights Organization because thousands of people were suffering in China. The writer claimed that them, along with a lot of other workers in the Massanjia labor camp, were forced to work 15-hour days with no weekends or holidays. If they refused, they would get tortured or beat and only got paid 10 yuan a month, which is about $1.61 a month. A month! The letter wasn't signed, but Julie did pass it on to the organization, and Kmart launched their own investigation into it as well. Thankfully, months later, the labor camp was exposed and the inmates were freed. Woohoo! We love a happy ending!
The three kings come marching onto this list at number 8. This game basically involves locking yourself into a room with mirrors at 3:30 in the morning and seeing what happens. I don't know about you guys, but this doesn't seem appealing at 3:30 in the morning. I mean, I'm tired. I've gone to bed for like 9. I'm getting older. First of all, I like my sleep. And secondly, I don't have any urges to be possessed by a demon. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. Apparently this ritual has had some pretty disturbing results, and people who have tried this game were so terrified that they vowed to never attempt this ritual again. Well, you know what? I'm vowing to never ever do this ritual for the first time. Well, let's watch a poor soul attempting to play this awful game.
What the hell, man? Guys, I'm not allowed to look at the mirror. I'm too afraid to look at it right now. What the hell? Guys, look at this. Stop doing that. Please, God, make it stop. Make it stop. Make it stop. Okay, guys, I got friggin' 2 more minutes. I'm gonna I'm never doing this ritual again, guys. Like, never, ever.
A lot of people have said that they will see evil spirits in the mirrors looking at them with dark eyes. The triple mirror game brings us to number 7. Judging by the name of this game, I definitely know that I won't be attempting this one. But if you are crazy enough to attempt to play the triple mirror game, you will need salt to cleanse the room and, well, it's called triple mirrors, you need 3 mirrors. You need to position the mirrors so that they bounce a reflection of the door from one mirror to the other, and then when you look into the third mirror, you're supposed to see all the spirits that are roaming around your home. So wait, so you're telling me that if I play this game, I'm gonna see all the creepy spirits that are watching me while I sleep? Yeah, no thanks. This isn't for me. I think I'm gonna pass on this one. Like, it's a hard pass, but it's a pass. The elevator game freaks me out in at number 6. This is a ritual game that originated from Japan and Korea. They have a lot of terrifying things down there. It is strongly believed that if you play this game, you will enter into an alternate dimension or will be able to communicate with spirits from another world. In order to take part in this ritual, you need to find an elevator in a building with 10 floors. You're supposed to ride it alone and visit different floors in a specific order. They say that you should never trust, look, or speak to a lady who enters the elevator with you on the 5th floor because the woman is there to lure you into a different realm. Actually, there is footage of a woman named Alyssa Lamb who disappeared one night while on an elevator. It is believed that she was actually playing the elevator game. Take a look for yourself. Her body was found in a water tank on top of the building, and there was no signs of physical trauma, assault, or even suicide. So what do you guys think went on? Was she a victim of the elevator game, or do you guys think something else happened here? Either way, that's enough evidence to convince me to never want to play this game. And if there's ever a lady that gets onto the condo elevator on floor 5, I'm gonna freak out.
But for now, on to number 9, Zombie Grudge. Local haunted houses sometimes bring in locals to be the actors, which can sometimes lead to an extra special scare if they aren't your biggest fan. Reddit user Killer Orange Cat had an experience like this. He was going through one with his friends, putting on a brave face for the monsters because he knew they weren't allowed to touch him, which is typically policy unless you sign a special waiver. But there was this zombie in the 4th room, a room he went into alone, and the zombie kept getting closer and closer to him until the zombie grabbed him and slammed him against the wall and said his name. It was then he realized it was a guy he knew named Richard that didn't like him. Richard held up a knife to his neck and said that no one would hear him, and then it looked like he was gonna stab him in the chest. Richard did hit him, but it was with the hilt of the blade and left no mark on him, but it was enough of a scare. There were no witnesses, so Ricky did end up getting away with it. So I'm already deterred from haunted houses, so just be wary of local ones, because the actors, If you have any grudges, might be people you know. But not everyone gets just a scare in a haunted house, so buckle yourself up for the next few. And speaking of safety, don't do what this person did at number 5, run in with a vampire. Reddit user Killer Orange Cat used to like to pretend he was a vampire, he says. I just need you to know that because of the context. Now, when he was 17, he was trying to get into a bar and they wouldn't let him in, so he was sulking his way out, and this other guy noticed he was looking upset. Now, my first warning to you about this story is be wary of strangers. Just to let you know. So this random guy from the line got them beers, apparently also seeming to be a vampire enthusiast, and the two of them began drinking in a graveyard. Now, underage drinking, that's a no-no, and 2, doing that with a stranger in a graveyard maybe isn't the best idea. Anyways, so after getting tipsy by the tombstones, this Reddit user gets up and stumbles and hits his head on a headstone and knocks himself out. When this guy wakes up, not only is his head stinging, but his left wrist is too, and the stranger he met looks like he's cut his arm and is drinking his blood. So the dude passes out again and then comes to, and the mysterious vampire-ish guy is gone and there's a cloth tied around his wrist. So just take from that story what you will, as I should be thinking you were taking away safety first, stranger danger, be careful, but let's move on to the next one.
In our number 6 spot, we have orange socks. This is a pretty wild story, but a little gruesome, so brace yourself. A woman in her 20s was killed on Halloween night in 1979. She was found severely injured and naked, but the only thing that was on her was orange socks. The police couldn't identify her, so that's how she was given the name Orange Socks. She was found just off of Interstate 35 outside of Georgetown, Texas, where it's possible that a notorious serial killer possibly was. I am referring to Henry Lee Lucas. He eventually confessed to the crime, stating that the girl's name was Joni or Judy. He was sentenced to death for it, but apparently he then retracted the confession in order to get his death sentence suspended. He was apparently notorious for admitting to crimes he didn't commit, so whether he did so or not still remains a mystery. In our number 5 spot, we have poisoned candy. Okay, this one might haunt your dreams a little, or at least make you weary about the candy you may eat going forward. There was a young human that went trick-or-treating one Halloween night, and after getting home and beginning to eat his candy, he passed out and died. He of course ate a piece of candy that was poisonous, and that's what killed him. But that's not the worst part. Apparently, this wasn't a fluke. This boy was poisoned by his own father. Apparently his father really needed money, and so he took this as an opportunity to cash out a life insurance policy that he had on his son. Yeah, that is definitely bone chilling. I'm gonna be weary of the candy I eat for the rest of my life going forward now.
Moving on to number 6, we have these spiders. Spiders are also associated with Halloween. How did this happen? Well, back in the day, they were involved in a number of eerie superstitions. One of them was if a spider falls into a candle or flame and burns up, it meant that witches were nearby. But if you spot a spider on Halloween, it meant that the spirit of one of your ancestors was going to visit you that night. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you are with your ancestors. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the praying for the dead. This is an old school tradition that may have inspired trick-or-treating. So back in the day, people would go around door to door asking for money or food. In return, they said that they would pray for the dead. But here's the thing. If you denied them, then they would get upset and they would trash your front lawn or your garden, etc. So you kind of were obligated to give them treats, or else you'd get the trick. In our 4th spot, we have the Halloween costumes. What are you guys going as for Halloween this year? Let me know in the comments below. Now, how did the whole dressing up for Halloween thing even start? Well, during Samhain, when people thought that spirits were crossing over into their world, there were a lot of people that weren't okay with this. They were like, hell no, I don't want to mingle with these spirits, don't come near me. So they thought if they dressed up as one, that they would be left alone. Like, this is POV, I'm the spirit, like, oh bro, you're not a human, you're just a spirit like me, sick, I'll leave you alone, see you later in the afterlife, or whatever. That's just one theory as to why costumes became associated with Halloween. At number 3 today, we have these sacrifices. So back in the day, the Celts considered November 1st as the day of death. Why? Well, by that time, leaves were falling and it was getting darker earlier on, and it was getting colder. So they believed that their sun god was losing strength, and that Samhain, the Lord of Death, was taking over. So in order to appease Samhain, Druid priests would lead worship ceremonies. They would offer horses, cats, black sheep, and even humans. They would shove them into wicker cages and burn them to death. They figured this would appease him and keep the spirits from harming them. In our second spot, we have the trick-or-treating again. Now, this is one of the things that inspired the whole trick-or-treating thing. So continuing on with my last point about the sacrifices, how did they get these sacrifices? Well, Druid priests would go house to house asking for animals or humans that would be given over to Samhain. Those that gave up stuff were promised prosperity. Those that didn't were cursed and threatened. Also, it was believed that the wandering spirits would get hungry, so if you set out a treat for them, then they would leave you be and not trick ya. Nowadays, the candy replaced the whole human sacrifice thing, so I'm glad that we changed our ways. I prefer candy. And in our number one spot today, we have the fairies. Now you may be thinking, oh, fairies, they're so cute, I'll go as a fairy for Halloween. Well, think again. Back in the day, fairies were evil. It was believed that Halloween was a very important day for fairies. And on that day, they would steal babies, or trick you, or even hurt you. They also apparently would hunt after the spirits of those who passed away and bring them down to the gates of hell. And if you bumped into them as they were doing so, well, you were going with them. I never thought fairies could be so evil, so just saying. Making our way down the list at number 6, we have the Smiley Face murders. It was Halloween night and Christopher Jenkins had just left a party, but was not done celebrating. As a result, he hit up a bar with his girlfriend and friends. But sometime after midnight, Chris became separated from the group and got kicked out of the bar. Since his costume had no pockets, his girlfriend was holding onto his wallet and phone. On top of that, he got a drive to the bar, so he had no way to get home. What happened next? No one truly knows. Chris was missing for 4 months until his body was found floating in the Mississippi River. To this day, his death is undetermined. No one knows what truly happened to him. One theory is that he was the victim of the Smiley Face murders, a group of killers that target college-aged white men. All of these victims are found drowned and with a smiley face graffitied nearby. Even though no smiley face was found, some people think that this was still a possibility. Another theory is that he found out that his girlfriend was cheating on him with a married man and threatened to expose him. In fact, the man she was cheating on him with was a police officer. So as a police officer, covering up a murder is on the easier side. Who knows? This case is still a huge mystery though.
Coming in at number 5 is The Mailman, Halloween Day 2012. Halloween is always a lit time. It's very scary to the point some people claim they get scared to death. Exaggeration. Pussies. Now, a mailman in Denver was on his route making his deliveries and he showed up at one house that had a corpse decoration on its porch. Sort of annoyed at the placement of the decoration, he sort of sidestepped it out of the way to the side and delivered the mail. As he was walking away, he realized it wasn't a decoration from any angle. It was a real man that was dead. Turns out the dead man, Del Porch, had collapsed and died on his porch when returning from his night shift, but because of the timing of Halloween, it just didn't look sus. Honestly, you guys, imagine dying and someone thinking you're a Halloween decoration and just moving your body to the side. Like, biggest L I'd ever take, and I'm not even bloody alive.
Alright, number 5, playing hide and seek alone. I know what you guys must be thinking. How can you play hide and seek alone? Well, actually, you aren't really alone while you're playing with a demonic and possessed doll. Sounds like a blast, right? Well, at least you're not playing alone. In order to play this game, you need to follow a very elaborate ritual, but one of the biggest rules is that you should never attempt to play this game while someone else is in the house because they can end up dead. So during this game, you're supposed to summon a ghost into a doll at 3 AM and invite this possessed demon to play with you. Only when the doll is it doesn't tag you, it stabs you. So I guess if you decided to play this game, you better make sure that you're a master at hide and seek. You don't want to be found. It is also said that you shouldn't play this game for more than 2 hours because it makes the spirits too strong. I don't know about you guys, but the idea of a scary possessed doll hunting me down with a knife doesn't sound like something that I want to play for 2 hours. We have a classic paranormal game making its way on this list at number 4, the infamous Ouija board. Something I will never play. Well, it has its fair share of negative publicity. Some people think that the Ouija board is a money gimmick created by a board game company, while others believe that the Ouija board is a medium between us and paranormal spirits. And that's what I believe. Whatever you believe, the Ouija board is something you definitely don't want to mess with on Halloween night. People who have tried to summon spirits with the Ouija board have reported hearing aggressive whispers, scary blackouts, and demonic possession. If you guys are brave enough to break out your Ouija board on Halloween night, then you should make sure you follow the rules very closely. Because if you don't, you will definitely put yourself in danger of being possessed by a demon like this person.
Andra, ¿no estás cansada? ¿De qué te ríes?
The Midnight Game brings us to number 3. The game sounds creepy as hell, and I would highly advise you guys to not try it. The Midnight Game is based on an old pagan ritual, and the goal of this terrifying game is to invite the Midnight Man into your home. The ritual lasts for about 3.5 hours, and you have to start it right at midnight. There are a bunch of instructions on how to perform this ritual, so once you complete all of the steps, you open your door in order to invite the Midnight Man into your home, and this is when the real game begins. You must now hide and creep around your house in order to avoid running into the Midnight Man. Like, is this a Midnight Man or is this a real man in your house? Because this is freaking me out. Why did you let a man in your house? Well, your goal is to avoid him at all costs until 3:33 a.m. And if your candle you're holding goes out, that means that the Midnight Man is near you. It is also said that if you're unsuccessful, the Midnight Man will cause you to hallucinate your biggest fear and rip your organs out one by one. And oh yeah, apparently you will feel all of this going on, but you won't be able to move or react. So hopefully you don't get caught up with all of the Halloween hype and attempt to perform this ritual, because if you try it, it might be the last thing you ever do.
Let's go back to your room. Let's go back to your room. Guys, seriously, I'm not, like, this is not like some stupid video.
Snap! No, I just smacked my leg, dude. It felt like something was biting.
Oh shoot! Light my candle!
Oh my god!
Dry Bones makes his way onto this list at number 2. Dry Bones is supposed to be a very sinister demon who loves to play hide and seek with you. But before you jump out of your seat to play with him, you need to be warned. This game isn't played with the typical hide and seek game that you're used to. This game is actually so dangerous, and even just thinking about it can summon Dry Bones even before you're ready to start playing. So the game started before you're ready to start. But in order to properly play the game, you need to first summon Dry Bones by lighting a match in the bathroom and ask him to play with you at exactly 12:01 a.m. You are supposed to think of a realistic wish, because if you beat him, your wish will be granted, which is why people play this game. You will know Dry Bones is summoned because he will make a creepy moaning sound. Once that happens, go and hide, because you're supposed to remain hidden until 3 a.m. If he doesn't find you, then consider yourself very lucky. If Dry Bones finds your hiding spot, you lose. No one knows for certain what happens when you lose, because maybe no one has ever lived to talk about it. The Devil's Mirror tops our list at number 1. Well, when you have a name like that, yeah, we save it for last. Okay, seriously, what is up with all of these games requiring a mirror and summoning a demon? I'm starting to become terrified of mirrors. This game is pretty simple. All you need to do is light 13 black candles, lock yourself in a bathroom with a mirror just before midnight, and turn off the lights. Once the clock strikes midnight, you're supposed to open your eyes and you will see the devil's face in the mirror. Is this real life right now? Who the hell would want to summon the devil? I get that being scared is fun, but why do you feel the need to come face to face with the devil? Why don't you watch a horror movie, you know, maybe go through a haunted house, maybe a scary ride, the Ferris wheel? Well, guys, it's scary for me, alright? Instead of playing this game, I think I would probably see myself going to the nearest church, you know, swim in some holy water, because I definitely don't want to be seeing a devil. And you know what? I definitely won't be feeling any FOMO if you guys decide to play this game. I won't feel left out.
Number 4, Mystery Man with a Chain. This one comes from John Has Stories on Reddit. He was only 5 years old when it happened. On Halloween day, his mom noticed a man in a mask walk around swinging a chain. No other children around. There was no apparent reason for it, other than possibly a costume on Halloween. If I decided to go out for a walk on Halloween, I may wear a mask, you know, to get into character, or I would hold a chain chain, maybe to like lock up a bike or something, but both, it kind of seems a little creepy, and they were getting the same vibe. So anyways, his mom had seen this guy in a mask holding a chain during the day, and that night, while the little 5-year-old boy was trying to sleep, he hears scratching and banging on his window. It kept happening until it faded, and then there was nothing. It turns out that nothing came out of it, but what or who had been making that noise. John Has Stories says it still scares him to think about what it could have been because they had no reasonable explanation at the time. Okay, on to number 3, wrong house. On Halloween in 1992, Yoshihiro Hattori was going to a house party with his friend Webb Haymaker, and they were both on exchange, so they were hoping for a fun time. They were in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and they were looking for a house in the country, which was supposed to be the address for the party. Thinking they arrived at the right house, they made their way to the front door. After trying to get in and knocking on the front door, they had no response and decided to try to get in through the back, thinking that might be the right way into the party. But the thing was, it wasn't the right house, and unfortunately, it was a fatal mistake. Rodney Piers, the homeowner, thought the people trying to get into his house were burglars and shot Yoshihiro. But on to our final story at number 1, A Vengeance in the Valley. In Napa Valley on Halloween in 2004, 3 housemates, Leslie, Adrienne, and Lauren, were handing out candy to trick-or-treaters that evening. Then they all went to sleep. At 2 a.m., Lauren woke after hearing Adrienne scream. So she ran outside, but then heard screams again, so she ran back in. Once she was back inside, she saw that both of her friends had been stabbed. She called the police, but her friends unfortunately didn't make it. It turns out Adrienne's best friend's fiance didn't like how close Adrienne and her best friend were. Eric Koppel, the fiance and alleged murderer, was jealous and took it out in the worst way possible. 1. If you are full of a lot of feelings, please find someone to talk to because it helps. And 2, safety first is what I'm taking away from all of these stories. So just be on the lookout, be safe. Happy Halloween, but like be safe.
In our number 3 spot, we have the tragedy on ice. On Halloween night 1963, in a skating rink in Indiana State Fairground Coliseum, Indianapolis, a tragedy occurred around 11 p.m. that night. It was apparently the last skating routine of the show when the concession stand exploded and the floors caved in, which caused a crater. Gas had been leaking from the concession stand, and that is what led to the explosion. 74 people died and 400 were injured from the event. It was said that the aftermath was a nightmare to see. I can only imagine. In our number 1 spot, we have Harry Houdini's death. Okay, I know what you might be thinking, Melissa. Harry Houdini's death is not terrifying. No, I suppose not. I mean, perhaps for his family it might have been terrifying, but what could potentially be terrifying about his death is the possibility that he was actually magical. Out of the 365 days in a year that he could have passed away, of course it's on Halloween, the Day of the Dead, the witch's holiday, a magical night. I don't know, is this a coincidence? Possibly, but I think not. Some people think he was killed by the Spiritualists, an organization he would apparently try to debunk, but there's seemingly no proof of this.
We have the Angry Marine. Back in 2012 on Halloween night, Daniel Priority, a US Army veteran, was sitting in his wheelchair waiting in line at a restaurant. He was wearing his old Army uniform as he had done every day on Halloween, but 22-year-old Christopher Dabney, a US Marine, thought that Daniel's uniform and wheelchair were fake. He thought that his costume were making fun of injured Army veterans. Well, this enraged him and he ended up punching him twice, knocking him out of his wheelchair completely. It wasn't until later he realized, oh crap, like he's not getting up. I think it's a real situation happening. He definitely needs the use of his wheelchair. I mean, yeah, you messed up big time.
Coming in at number 2 is dressing the part. Back in 2013, Anthony Seabury would be shot and killed by someone who seemed to be a random individual. A few people saw the murder take place, and what made this murder grab headlines wasn't so much that it happened on Halloween, but that it happened on Halloween and that the killer was apparently wearing a mask from the horror movie Scream. It's thought that the killer could have been someone who fantasized about murder from watching horror movies, and when Halloween came around, he saw this as the perfect opportunity to hunt someone down and live out their fantasy. To this day, the person who killed Anthony Seabury has not been caught and could still be on the loose.